Hey everyone, Troy here from the crew of the Soundery. I'm here with Josh from Lovegrove Music to talk about all the gear that makes his sound.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. Happy to have you here. Can you tell me about what you take on stage to get your sound on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always have my two acoustic guitars. So they're both by an Australian brand called Fennec, which are hand built on the Gold Coast. And so I started working with Aaron Fennec a few years ago, and I was lucky enough to get two really beautiful custom built guitars for me. And so this one is about 3 years old. Her name is Layla, and she is a Fennec Grand Auditorium Artist Series. Just stunning guitar. I always keep it in open tuning. This one is in standard tuning, and so that's a stunner.
Tell us about the other one.
That one, this one is my pride and joy. Her name is Grace, and she's a new Mini Rosewood D78 Dreadnought by Fennec again. And this one I always do in open tuning, and being a bigger body guitar, it just has this like incredible resonance. It's stunning. So I keep it in open C, and I write a few of my songs around that tuning, and then if I have to change it throughout the set, just do that as we go.
Awesome. What about mics? What do you got for mics on stage?
So my go-to on-stage mic is a Shure KSM9. So I've got the wired version and the wireless version, just in case I want to be a little bit more interactive in my show. They're a live condenser, so they're super sensitive, and because obviously being a live looper, there's a lot of dynamics, so I can actually, proximity is less of a thing with these mics because they are a little bit more sensitive. And then the microphone that I run through all the effects pedals is an AKG D7. Just a standard gig happy mic.
Just the go-to.
The go-to, yeah. And it's great, and I've experimented with so many different mics just to get the right combo of sensitivity, and I find that using it for beatboxing and then singing, and then playing the flute into it and recording live samples, it's just got the crispness and the roundness in the bass, and it's not too harsh.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people like myself and come watch you play, absolutely fascinated by what's going on under the feet. So can you tell us a bit about what's going on down here?
Yeah, for sure. So I always have trusty Stompbox by Wild Dog. So usually I run two of these. This one I was lucky enough to have custom made. Considering how beautiful it is, it's weird that I stamp on it for a living. But yeah, so Stompbox, and that's just the kick sample when I need that. And I call my pedal board the Coliseum because it's impossible to get out from behind it. And okay, so there's quite a lot of stuff going on, but I think the main components of it are the Boss RC300, which is my main loop station. It has been for maybe 3 or 4 years, and it's just, for me, it's kind of the Swiss Army knife of looping. It just does everything I need it to do. I think my next step is to design my own looper. So that's a bit of a project, but yeah. So that's the looper, and then the Morningstar MC6 is the controller, which basically is the epicenter of the whole board. It's how I can get through loops and change patches and basically do the sound design for every song before I get on stage.
Right.
So once it's all set, then I just get up and just click the button and go. Yeah.
I've always been absolutely stunned by the atmosphere that your music creates. How do you get that nice sound? Is it signature reverb or timeline? What's going on?
So I've always been a reverb guy.
Yeah.
Even when I was studying at uni in the studio, I was always a big reverb guy. So the Strymon Big Sky is pretty crucial to that sound, and I just went on a deep dive and just went through everything that they had designed, and then I just tailored them to what I needed. Because I think, especially playing acoustic guitar, you don't want reverb to get in the way. Like it just has to be, supportive of the sound, and so that you can still be like articulate and dynamic. So the Big Sky is the main one, but I actually have a few reverbs on this setup. So I've got that, which has more than anybody could ever need, but it didn't have one thing that I found in the Polara, the Digitech Polara. I just use it on the hall, and it just has a really long decay, but it's got a tonal quality that I couldn't dial in, which is super strange. Any like reverb fanatic will be like, yeah, it's in there. And I was like, couldn't find it. So I actually stack them a lot, and like if I've got a short reverb here, I've got a long one over here, or vice versa. And then I guess the other one, which really is like a big contributing factor, is the Game Changer Audio Plus.
And I've seen these around. Can you explain how this works?
Yeah, honestly, I saw it on Instagram and I was just blown away. I was like, can't possibly sound that good live. And I tried a few different sustain pedals, and I have not found any that sound as good as this does. So basically, when you play a note, you just press it in the same way that you would when you're playing piano, and it will just hold it. And the tonal quality, it's really like organic is the best way for me to describe it. It doesn't sound synthetic, which some of the other ones do. There's just like that like I don't know, magnetic sound, I guess. But anyway, so you can layer tones of chords, or you can use that just as pedal notes when you're soloing, or that kind of stuff. And so if I'm playing a song in C, sometimes I'll actually pedal a high D, like the sus2, and it'll just give that like almost the lift throughout the whole song. Yeah, cool. It's very cool.
Speaking of soloing, I've noticed that some of your gigs, I see you soloing with your acoustic guitars and your lovely Fenix, but you throw some gain on there.
Yep.
How are you going about that with acoustic guitars? What's your trick?
Oh my goodness. I tried every overdrive pedal. I started with a Boss Blues driver.
I think
on my first board that was this big from Loopy Pedals, like that was there, and it was like gainy and hard on the ears and hard on the soul. And years later, I found Vemuram, which are a really incredible company from Tokyo, and they make these like. So I've got the Gen Ray and the Shanks, and the Gen Ray is an overdrive pedal, and the Shanks is a pretty heavy fuzz, and so they're designed for electric guitar. But as soon as I ran the acoustic through, it just held the tone of the sound and just almost shaped the overdrive just to beautifully fit, And so they're basically the drives that I use when I'm doing soloing, and if I want to dig in a little bit, I'll chuck the Shanks on, and it really cuts through, But if I'm doing more chordal stuff, or doing like country style, like big swells and stuff, I'll actually use the Tektronix Mulholland drive, which is paired with the Flint. So I've got that reverb, I've got the trem on it, and then I've just got that. It's quite a subtle drive, but it just fattens the presence of it a bit. But those are the three. That's the drive section.
That's awesome. Is there any other secrets in your board tucked away that you really love using? Or?
Well, I'm a sucker for the keytron.
Yes.
So as we all are.
It's on the shopping list.
Yeah. I think I bought 3 of them, and because they all respond differently. They're a little bit unpredictable, especially the original ones. And when I found this one, I was like, yeah, found it, finally made it. It was awesome. So love that. Just as an envelope filter, like I've got the exotic wah, which especially for acoustic, again, like a lot of pedals are designed for electric guitar, and they have like very signature purpose in that. But yeah, that's the one that I found like tonally and harmonically fit with what I was trying to achieve. And I think the bigs, like people are like, man, there's so many pedals, how do you get your feet around them all? The truth is that I actually don't. it's all MIDI controlled and it's all triggered through the MC6.
Yeah.
So when
Tell us more about how that works.
yeah, so when I write a new song, I'll actually go into the studio, like a rehearsal studio, and I'll arrange it for the live show. And so when I'm doing the sound design on it, I'll dial in all the patches and I can pre-save it all. And then I go to the MC6 and I'll create a bank for the song. And so if it's got a clean guitar, bass, beatboxing, like a really drive section that has a chorus on it, like whatever the combo is, I can actually pre-program it into that. And so when I press one button and all the things either turn on or turn off. And so in an ideal world, if I'm playing, I'm only pressing the MC6 and the looper. That's it. And everything else just kind of goes in line.
Must be nice.
It's nice. I did. These are discontinued, the molten voltage nodes. But at the time, they were the only ones that I could find that actually still had buttons on as a MIDI bypass looper. And so when I got them, because I was like, well, what if I want to just try something new on a whim? Like, I'm feeling inspired or courageous. And so I got them, and like even though they're big for a bypass looper, they were the only ones that had the 4 channels and the buttons, so that not everything is like dependent on the presets, because as we know, like tech goes down.
Yeah.
So I wanted to always be able to get to everything with or without it. So that was a really good thing. Like that one was the last model that they released. This one was, so this is a node as well, and this was the model beforehand, and I thought it was super ugly, so I covered it in electrical tape. Yeah.
You gotta think about these things.
It's just, it's for everybody.
Now, obviously you haven't always had the Colosseum of pedal boards. Can you give us an idea of where you started and where we ended up?
Yeah, well, so my first ever pedal was a looper. So I think I bought it on eBay for $200. It was a RC20. And I was at uni at the time studying music, and everybody was like, oh, do the thing, because like it had become a bit trendy. So I was like, okay. So I bought it, I tried it for one day, and I hated it. I was like, this is the worst. Nope. So I put it in the cupboard and I didn't touch it for 2 years. And then when I finally got it back out, I had an OC3, a DD7, and a Blue Strider. So I had a full, sponsored by Boss, pedal board.
Bit of bass, bit of delay,
Yeah.
gain.
Yeah, just the fundamentals to create a bit of a landscape. And then, so that was on this like tiny little pedal board that I would carry around by the handle. So no cover, no case, no nothing. I would just carry this little like lunchbox pedal board. And then I started buying more and started being a little bit more interested in the how far I could take the sound of the board. So then I started upgrading and downgrading and buying the thing and selling the thing. And then so I went from this to maybe that, and then to this with a lid, and then 2 levels, and then I landed with, and I've actually been, I was pretty addicted for a while, let's be honest. And it's been in this format for long enough for me to say, oh, I got to the end of the road, because I'm really happy. Like, I think this will be it. I might just like interchange some stuff, but it's all pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of combinations going on here. What would you say are like your favourite sounds that this absolute beast of a system pulls out for you?
Okay, combos. So the Mulholland and the Flint together, beautiful, driven, trem, killer. That's awesome. The Plus and the Jan Ray, so like having a bit of grip on the sustain is super cool. Basically anything that the Big Sky has, like the swells and stuff, Strymon stuff is really cool because it all works together pretty well, pretty like seamlessly. And so like running the delays into the like really strong delays into swells on the Big Sky, it's quite a cool combo that I use a fair bit. And the Big Sky and the Wah as well. That's I find myself like coming to that all the time.
That's
Yeah.
like the Lovegrove sound.
I think so. I like they're you know, I don't even know if I know what the Lovegrove sound is yet. But there's we'll see. Time will tell. But also I don't think I mentioned this before, but the Sonos is not super duper common, but it's basically a Swiss Army knife of dynamic effects. So it's a compressor limiter, like I guess you could call it an analog trem, but it's a dynamic trem, which is quite cool, and it's got a gate. And what else have you got on there? And you can just use that as a normal volume.
That's a volume pedal. On top of all that, the
Yeah.
volume pedal is also a volume pedal.
That's right, crazy. And that thing is just it's just a wild beast. It just does so much stuff, and you can pair it with almost anything, and it's killer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Thanks for telling us all about what's going on. Would you mind leading us have a bit of a look?
Yeah, sure.